and welcome to Dynamic GT League's Formula Murray Championship for Race 5 from Suzuka. As we get ready to take a quick look at the current standings, we'd like to welcome nobody, unfortunately. Ray is unwell this week. He's also not taking part in the race this week, so I am on my own during commentary, but we'll have a look at the current standings anyway. Demon R leading the way by 11 points over Steve F1. And then we've got SRI in third place, and he's got a 9-point gap over Artpal in fourth, and then SGP in fifth, 1 point behind Artpal. Jason is sixth place on 46 points, seventh is Nelly on 44 points, and in eighth place is formerly Gary and Twilight, tied in eighth actually on 30 points. And then it says here Rich Blues in 10th on 21 points and Jimmy in 11th on 16. That is actually the wrong way round. It should be Jimmy on 21 points and Rich Blues on 16, and then Conrad. Now, Ray's thought of the day is probably, I wish I wasn't bloody ill. But he is ill, as I mentioned. So, yeah. No thought of the day from Ray. Also for today's race, actually, let's see, Jason was there for the race, but his connection was so bad that he was asked to reset a couple of times, and then unfortunately he wasn't able to get into the lobby. So we did have quite a small grid here today, but here's something to make up for not having a race thought of the day. Cars these days have too many gadgets. I put mine into reverse and the screen played a video of somebody getting run over by a car. Okay, so, yeah, as I mentioned, we have got a short grid today. Jimmy unavailable, Nelly was unavailable, neither of them let us know, naughty boys. Jason, as I mentioned, couldn't get in. Unfortunately, Conrad has taken a break from racing, so yeah, we won't have Conrad on the grid. So there is only 7 drivers on the grid, which is a bit disappointing really. But Steve F1 on pole position and with a great lap time, ahead of SGP in second place. And then we've got Demon R in third place. Championship leader, actually set fastest time in practice, and Artpal sitting outside of his grid box there in fourth place, and Twilight in fifth place. And then we've got formerly Gary in sixth place, and then Rich Blues in seventh. Now we have invited a driver to join us on the grid. Unfortunately he wasn't able to make this race, so hopefully we'll see him at the next one if he's available. Okay then, let's get ready to rumble, as we are now at 4 lights, 5 lights, and away they go! And it looks like a good start from SGP. Can he make a move on Steve F1 up the inside? Demon R cutting over to the inside to cover off Artpal, who goes outside. And I think Richard's just gone a little bit wide, but SGP trying to put some pressure on Steve F1. And Artpal making the move on Demon R. And I'm, what, a minute in and my throat's getting a little bit raspy already. Oh, does that look like, is that Gary? Yeah, Formula Gary. Having a look up the inside of Demon R. So, some quick information for you. The boost is still on in this event, and I will go through at some point the sort of the rules scenarios of what we do when we have a low amount of drivers on the grid. As Rick Blue's going a little bit deep at the first Degner, but staying on the road. Twilight, I think, has had a spin. Yes, he has. He's just going through the Dunlop S's as Rich Blues sort of forcefully goes past Formula Gary there, and I think actually, yeah, letting him back through. So nicely done. Yeah, so with 7 drivers, boost will be from 4th place back. However, Demon R being this close to the back of Artpal will not be getting any boost. Gary will until he gets within 1 second of Artpal. So the boost will basically be very ineffective when the drivers are this close together, but Twilight and Rich Blues should be able to catch up quite nicely as Gary goes wide. Demon R goes wide as well through the R130. Gary on the got a little bit on the grass there. Gives Demon R a little bit of a nudge. So Artpal's got a bit of a gap now, but he dips a wheel wide, nearly does a Glock. But yeah, so that gap between Demon R and Artpal should come down again pretty quickly. But then Demon R is going to have to actually work for his overtake. SGP is still on the back of Steve F1, but Steve F1 is opening that gap up a little bit. Now, one of the things the front two may want to do is not battle. If they don't battle, they can potentially pull away from third place, and third place constantly under pressure as Formula Gary actually closing in on the back of Demon R now. But is he gonna go for a risky move? But no, he's not. That's good to see, because one of the things of being in that position like Gary, catching up with the boost, it's very easy to sort of think I'm quicker, and try and make a move straight away, and it does not always work. Now Gary is this close, he's not really going to get boost, maybe a little bit on the straights, but now he won't. Demon R goes defensive, and yeah, Formula Gary unable to make that move. So I'll go through the sort of our procedure for low numbers of drivers. What we do is we ask all of the drivers that if they know the day before the race that they are not going to be able to make the race, let us know. If by midnight the day before the race we are aware that there is only going to be 9 or less drivers on the grid, we will postpone the race. We will put it back a week. However, if by midnight we are not aware that we're going to be on low numbers, then the race will go ahead anyway. Demon R's got a great run here on Art Pal, but not really able to force anything into turn 1. May be able to get a decent exit out of 2, but you're only going to be able to overtake through the knuckles if you get a driver very much out of position as Gary. Went a little bit wide there. So for today's race, heading into the practice session before the race, which we were expecting the likes of SRI, Nelly, Jimmy and Jason, so that would have given us 11 drivers on the grid, but unfortunately SRI unwell, Jimmy unable to make it, Jason with his connection issues, and Nelly, we can only guess, perhaps stuck in traffic on his way home from work. Yeah, that dropped us down to a lower number of drivers. And what we may find in this particular race is how the boost is going to affect the race later on. Could have a dramatic effect. So for Steve F1 here at the moment, all he can really do is try and pump in consistent lap times and look after the tyres so that he can do a one-stop strategy. A one-stop should be easily doable around here, unless you absolutely destroy the tyres, and you would have to be really pushing them way over their limit. For SGP, he can pretty much at the moment stick on the rear wing of Steve F1, so he's coping with the dirty air, so he can kind of copy what Steve F1 does, unless he wants to go for an undercut when we get to the pit stop window, which could be anywhere from, let's see, we're 26 lap race, so lap 13 is halfway, so anywhere between 11 and 13 a window can open to pit. Now if SGP was to do that and come out in 4th or higher, or lower even, he would get boost and be able to basically undercut Steve F1. But Steve F1 could do that early pit stop and get the boost. But I think if Steve F1 was to pit, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw SGP following him. Now for Art Pal here, Demon R's actually got a bit of a run. I think Art Pal maybe went a little bit deep into the deadness and trying to make the move round the outside and maybe able to get this done on the exit, with more grip and less steering angle, gets that move done. So for Art Pal now, he's going to have a bit of dirty air, and he's also going to have Gary right behind him. But so far, Gary hasn't really gone for any risky overtakes, and he's not going for one here either. Okay, so for Demon R now, it'd be interesting to see if he's got the pace to close that gap up to SGP, because if he can, it really does put some pressure on those front two. But also, the faster Demon R can go, or as Art Pal runs wide of the R130, Gary, is he going to get the move done? He's going to try it round the outside, and a little touch, but that's absolutely fine. That's actually a very nice move from Gary there. Waited for the mistake and capitalised. Art Pal though, he's going to get a run down the main straight, Is Gary going to defend it? Okay, he's not. Art Power looking. So this is a no boost situation. Gary going around the outside. And outside again. Great bit of driving from the two of them there. So what I was about to say was, the faster Demon R goes, the closer Art Power will be to the front three. So if Demon R was right in front of Art Power now, Art Power would get no boost. Whereas if Demon R goes and closes up to the back of SGP, which it looks like he's doing, then Art Power will be able to close all the way up to the back of Demon R. So that does mean when we get to the pit stop window, who pits when, they could benefit massively with a couple of laps of boost and not a lot of traffic on the track. Because normally one of the factors that the leading drivers would have to deal with is when they pit, are they coming out into traffic? But to be fair, when there's only 7 drivers on the track, the traffic is going to be very minimal. Now, I must admit, I think if I was in Steve F1's position, leading the race, or SGP's position, I'd probably be wanting to be the early pitter. So Steve F1's lap times have been 39, which is the first lap, obviously 38, getting the tyres warmed up, 37.4, 37.4. Let's see what this lap time is, as Demon R has closed in on the back of SGP. A 37.1 for Steve F1. So he's got pace and a bit of a gap. So yeah, he might want to consider in 5 or 6 laps time being the first to pit so that nobody can undercut him. Or being the first to pit, and if anyone follows him in, they're not going to gain on him at all. So let's see how this is going to go then. It looks like Rich Blues has been struggling a little bit. He's a bit further away from the back of the train, as Twilight has now caught back up to well, just about caught up to the back of Formula Gary. So SGP then, I think Demon R's had a bit of a moment somewhere, because he dropped back from SGP, and that has put Art Power right on the back of him once again. Let's see Gary's lap times. So 38, 37, 38 and 36. The 36 would have been, well, that was a lap with a bit of boost. Oh, that was a lap with a bit of sideways. I mean, it'll hurt the tyres a little bit, but as long as he doesn't go pushing it too much, he will be okay with those, because the tyres have been made fairly sturdy for this race. Otherwise, they'd be pitted every couple of laps. Okay, so let's see what we got. So yeah, that's Twilight then closing in on the back of Gary. Gary's got a bit of boost now with that gap until he closes up to the back of Art Power. And yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier on about dirty air. Dirty air is evil. It's not just dirty because it makes a mess of your aerodynamics, it's dirty because it's just dirty. So following cars through the R130 flat out is not a possibility. So drivers will be having to lift and coast through there. So looking at Art Power's tyre wear then, he's got what, about 25% wear gone, and we're on lap 7 of the race, so the tyres looking very, very healthy. And actually looking at that, if we doubled the amount of wear, that would be, say, lap 12. So yeah, I do think a pit stop, oh, Gary nearly ran a bit wide at Dunlop, a pit stop could potentially be done somewhere around about 10, 11, 12, and maybe try and do sort of a 12 to 14 lap stint. And like I said, anyone who pits first is going to get a mega undercut, but we'll need to make sure they don't pit too soon, and yeah, end up with no tyres at the end of the race. Now, regarding the low numbers of boosts, one of the things that, well, one of the reasons that we put in the sort of what we would do if there's low numbers in place. So as Demon R runs wide, that'll give Art Power a good run on the back of him down towards the R130. And Art Power may also be looking at his mirrors. Demon R goes defensive, partly in the middle of the road. Art Power with the dirty air, yeah, has to lift a little and then can't make the move down into the chicane. But Demon R will be very aware that he is right there. Okay, so as I was saying, where's I thought Twilight disappeared then. He's there, he's still there. Yeah, so with low numbers, the boost Oh, Gary runs very, very wide, gets so very sideways as well. Yeah, that was unfortunately trying to get back on the track a little bit too soon. It's unfortunate for Gary, but having a great race to there. Now, interestingly, look at Rich Blue's tyres. So, yeah, his front right tyre is absolutely battered compared to Steve F1. And that is from, yeah, unfortunately, sort of leaning on them a little bit too much. And unfortunately, that's what can happen if you don't get time to practice. You may not know exactly just how much to push. So yeah, with the low numbers and the boost being effective sort of from 4th place, it does make it very, very difficult. And the admins have been talking about what we can do in these kind of situations. ArtPal and Twilight have got past Demon Art. When did that happen? Oh, Twilight goes a little bit deep and Demon Art comes back past him. Obviously, I was just waffling too much there because I wasn't even seeing the overtake. So yeah, ArtPal got past Demon Art. And now he's got Twilight all over the back of him. Both of these are going to get dirty air. So both of them are going to have to lift. Or Twilight, I don't think he might have lifted, but perhaps a little bit later than Demon Art did. Yeah, so the admins have been talking about maybe there's something we can do differently as Twilight heads to the pit lane. Okay, so Twilight's gone very early, and actually Twilight had a lot of tyre wear there as Demon Art and ArtPal side by side down into turn 1. Demon Art gets the move done, and ArtPal slots back into 4th place. So let's see once again if Demon Art can close that gap. I should mention as well, actually, Demon Art wasn't able to practice this week. He was looking after his mother. So yeah, he only got practice just before the race. And I mean, if we consider the races we've had so far, this championship, he's been 2nd and 1st, and this race, there's been a few mistakes, and he's battling in that 3rd place position. Right, yes, so I'll try and get through it again. The admins have been discussing what we may be able to do, because one option was, well, basically, if we've got less than 9 drivers on the grid and we didn't know there would be, then we want the race to go ahead. Because if we postpone it, it kind of penalises those that had turned up, but also it benefits those that didn't turn up. Also, if we were to postpone the race to the next week, if we then had low numbers again, we'd basically be in a situation of perpetual postponement, and we don't want that, as we've got Rich Blues in the pits and not seeming to go anywhere. It doesn't look like there's any work being done on that car. It looks like one of the mechanics has suddenly got very depressed and fallen to his knees. I wonder if there's an issue there for Rich Blues then. Okay, ArtPal still on the back of Demon Art, and Gary closing that gap in, as SGP actually closing the gap in a little bit on Steve F1 at the front. But I think, I must admit, if I was in that Steve F1 SGP position, I would be thinking, okay, we probably should be pitting in the next lap or two. Demon Art's got quite a bit of tyre wear going on there, and that'll be from the lack of practice. If we compare that to ArtPal's tyres, if we get to see them, I wouldn't be surprised if ArtPal's are in a better condition. Yeah, so we had discussed previously whether we could maybe take boost off when there's a low grid. But unfortunately, if we do that, we could be in a situation where drivers in the race that have actually turned up again get penalised, because if they are a victim of something, there's no way of them getting back in the race. So there was a discussion about, well, maybe we could do a half distance race or do something different so the drivers that turned up get points. And one of the things that actually sort of was brought to light was, well, if we could do something that wouldn't necessarily affect how a race would go, but still give us the race, then maybe there's something we could do. Let's take a look on board with Demon Art now. And big sideways! Bigger sideways! And in the pits. Now, I'm not certain he wanted the pit lane there, because it looked a lot more like he was trying to catch a slide rather than drive in to the pits. However, Oh, Steve F1 dipped a wheel on the grass there. However, for Steve F1 and SGP, yeah, they may want to consider reacting to that, because De Minard's going to come out the pits. And yeah, he's going to get quite a bit of boost. Now, Twilight, just to show how much boost is available to the drivers, Twilight has got a massive gap over De Minard, and he was behind him 3 laps ago. I think it was 2 or 3 laps ago. So yeah, Twilight's benefited quite a lot. As Art Powell now in 3rd place, no boost. Formula Gary on the back of him. SGP runs a little bit deep. Tyre wear looking okay though. And yeah, lap time's not looking too bad either. Been in the 37s and a couple of 38s. Rich Blues is still in the pit lane, by the way. Steve F1's tyres, yeah, still looking good. And pretty much same again. Lap times in the 37s and a couple in the 38s. So tyres looking good. But this is where the temptation may be to keep going. But every lap that these guys do, it's time lost over Twilight and De Minard. Although I don't know if Twilight can get to the end from where he pitted. Now, are we going to get a reaction? Is anybody else going to head into the pits? SGP isn't, Steve F1 isn't, Art Pal isn't, and Formula Gary isn't. Okay, interesting. Well, unless they think the tyres may not be able to do 14 laps. I suppose looking at the tyre wear, it could be right on the edge, which if it is, Twilight and De Minard may not be getting to the end either. So there could be another pit stop for Twilight and De Minard to do. Okay, so yeah, touching back on what the admins were discussing, because there is the situation, for example, here that let's say Twilight and De Minard are able to get to the end. They are going to gain so much over Steve F1 and SGP right now that it's a very unfair situation. I mean, there is Twilight, so he's already caught back up, and there is De Minard, so they've pretty much almost had a free pit stop, which when there's more drivers on the grid, they wouldn't have caught up to that point, because if there was 12 drivers, boost is only to like 7th place backwards. So there's, yeah, a bigger gap would form. So one of the options that has been brought to the admin's attention that we will look into is, for example, in a race like this, as Twilight's got a great run on Formula Gary here. Gary goes defensive. Twilight just drives straight round the outside of him on the fresher tyres. Gary's tyres are actually in really good condition. See, on that, Art Pal's pitted. Okay, so I was going to say on Gary's tyre wear, he could pit and get to the end, I reckon, but he's actually going to try and make a move up the inside of De Minard, but decides better against it. Art Pal then pitting. I think he believes he can get to the end. So SGP and Steve F1, I think, need to react now. We're half distance. They've got to react. So, yeah, if we were to, for example, for this race, if we had taken tyre wear off, then it would mean there would be no need to pit, meaning no one would gain an advantage. So let's say, for example, De Minard, he had his sideways moment, ended up in the pits. Yeah, he can put a fresh set of tyres on, and yeah, he'll get the boost and catch back up. But no one else is going to be pitting. So he would have lost time from making the pit stop, and he's losing a little bit of time now on the back of Twilight, but looking at making that move. Going to try round the outside at Spoon, is he? Yes, he is. A bit later on the brakes than Twilight, but almost goes deep, as Gary does go deep and spins. Oh dear. And another little spin as well. He's going to have to be careful now for Art Pal approaching through Spoon Curve. De Minard once again got a run on Twilight as Art Pal just gets past Formula Gary. De Minard he actually went down a gear to keep the grip and the speed through the R130, and neither of the leaders has pitted. They've carried on. Oh, and Twilight's gone wide. Oh dear, that's a big hit. Oh, and he's decided to stick the nose in the barrier once again. He's going to have to be careful now because Art Pal is on his way. There we go. Art Pal goes flying by, and Gary now decides is a good time to pit. Okay, Steve F1's tyres. Okay, I can look at his tyre wear. I can understand why he may not have wanted to have pitted earlier. But I do think maybe should have pitted the previous lap. SGP has actually really closed in on him. Let's see, Steve F1's last 3 lap times were in the 39s as Formula Gary makes his way out of the pits. It'll be interesting what SGP's lap times have been for the last few laps as they make their way through the hairpin. So let's see, where's Demon R then? So there's Demon R on fresh tyres, doesn't have boost now, but the cars ahead need to pit, and he may need to pit, he may not. We'll have to wait and see if we can see his tyre wear. Let's see, it does look like Steve F1 is struggling a little bit for a bit of grip. Yeah, car washing a little bit wide. SGP not really close enough to capitalise though. Demon R, I think, is still closing that gap. I mean, Demon R's fresh tyres. If he's doing like 137s at the moment, he's going to be catching these two by a couple of seconds a lap. Now, when these two do pit, if they come out behind Art Pal, they are going to get the pit. Here we go then. Into the pits they go. So, yeah, both of them into the pits. Demon Art carries on, and it was a 137. He did a 136 and a 131 with the boost. So, yeah, now SGP and Steve F1 just pulling into their pit boxes now. Demon R's already heading into the knuckles as we see Twilight here down the start finish. Is he going to jump? Yes, he is. He's going to jump Steve F1 and SGP by quite a margin, actually. However, he did have that big spin, didn't he? Now, Steve F1 and SGP are in the boost positions, but as soon as they catch up to Twilight, that boost will disappear. And if they manage to get ahead of him, they definitely won't have the boost. And they're already on the back of him. I think Twilight's struggling a bit with the dirty, hot tyres. And yeah, heading up to the Degners. Steve F1 all over the back of him. SGP all over the back of Steve F1. Oh, Twilight with a little twitch through there. Let's see how he gets on through the second Degner. Oh, and actually moving out of the way. Okay, well, that's an interesting scenario, that, because I think, yeah, I mean, Twilight's race isn't with Steve F1 and SGP at the moment. However, well, I mean, I was going to say that Steve F1 wasn't going to get boost right behind Twilight, but he's definitely not going to get boost now. And SGP, being as close as he is to Steve F1, won't get boost either. Okay, so Art Pal. You know, Art Pal pitted at the end of lap 12, and he's got loads of tyre life left. I think Art Pal can get to the end of this race. Let's see, SGP, yeah, still on the back of Steve F1, but not close enough to do anything about it. So my concern now would be that, I mean, if Demon R can get to the end, he's miles ahead of these guys that have pitted, and they've got no boost to do anything about it. If Demon R does need to pit, he'll come out behind these guys. But obviously with boost, Twilight with a big swapper on. So easily done. He's now going to have to be careful of Formula Gary, who is making his way through turn 3 now. And yeah, gets that move done, does Gary. So, I mean, this is where as well, for SGP, as much as he might want to attack Steve F1, I think the best thing these two can do is not battle. Steve F1 is, well, I mean, the pace of these two guys is pretty much identical, and they're both very fast. So if they don't battle, that's the only way they will be able to close the gap on Art Pal, who's going to have to look after his tyres, and on Demon R, who may need to pit again. Okay. So Demon R then heading down to the R130. His last lap was a 36.9, so absolutely flying. A lot more tyre wear than Art Pal has got. He's actually gone very deep at the chicane. Oh dear. So struggling a bit there by the looks of it. His Art Pal is actually going into the pits. Well, this is where I would ask Ray, why is he pitting then, Ray? And Ray would go, yeah. So we'll have to see if I can find out anything about that. So that does mean then that Art Pal takes the lead of the race, and his last lap was a 36.9. Steve F1's last lap was a 36.0. So Steve F1 has got potentially 1 second a lap of pace over Art Pal. And let's see, I mean, what's the gap? I'm going to do a little bit of a count from the timing line for Art Pal. And there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's about 8 seconds. And we've got 19, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 10 laps to go. If you can keep that margin of 1 second a lap, they could close that gap down on Art Pal. Difficulty they might have, though, is that Demon R is going to be closing up on them soon, because he's not far away, and he's on fresh set of tyres. So the key points now is definitely going to be what pace can Art Pal do, what pace can Steve F1 do. And this is now the scenario where, with a short amount of drivers on the grid, Steve F1 just runs a little bit wide, and there is Demon R closing back up. Yeah, with a short amount of drivers on the grid, this is where it could be said that the game that Art Pal has had is a bit unfair, because I mean Steve F1's driven a faultless race so far, but somehow is in second place. And I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Art Pal, he's still got to do the laps. And Steve F1 and SGP could have pitted a lap after, a lap before, or you know, there's a lot of different scenarios, but there is quite a large gap between first and second, which wouldn't be there if we'd have had a much fuller grid like we normally do. So yeah, this is a scenario now where Demon R with brand new set of tyres on the back of SGP, and now does Demon R attack SGP and slow them down? I don't think that is necessarily the wisest of things to do. Art Pal's last lap was a 37.0. Steve F1's was a 36.5. And we saw him get a little bit wide through Spoon. Demon R's last was a 36.8, but that's when he pitted as well. And let's see, how far back is Twilight? Twilight is quite a distance behind, but he may have pitted again. And I think, has Gary pitted again? I'm not sure. I think Gary may have had another spin. Okay, so SGP. I mean, if we see him going defensive, then we know he's going to be concerned about Demon R making the move. However, one of the good parts of these cars is the dirty air is so dirty that it makes overtaking very difficult. So Demon R here, if he was able to stay flat out through the R130, which he isn't, he'd be able to potentially make a move into the final chicane. But because he has to lift to be able to get around the corner, it opens up that gap a little bit to the car ahead. And it'll be the same story through the final corner and then down the start finish, as Art Pal done another 37.0. Steve F1's done a 35.9. So, yeah, there's potential there. Okay, SGP. It did kind of fend off Demon R a little bit there. I mean, if Demon R wants to win this race, I don't think he can afford to battle with the two cars. There's Gary on the pack cam. Does what Twilight did earlier, dips a wheel wide, very easily done, and around he goes. Let's see, SGP's last laps, 36.2, 36.6, 36.3, so very consistent from SGP here. And Demon R, as I mentioned already a few times, being this close, will now not get any boost. So, he's not looking at attack, he's actually gone deep into the hairpin. And thinking about it, one of the factors of Demon R not having practiced, being able to practice for this week, is he will not have been able to practice the dirty air situation. So as the tyres wear, and in comes the dirty air, even with the fresher tyres, he's not going to have that knowledge of exactly what the car's not going to do, or what it isn't going to do. So yeah, we may see Demon R struggling ways we haven't seen in previous races. Let's see how they get on into the final chicane. All looking good. So I wonder if we're going to get to see again what lap time Art Pal has done. Well, that almost looked like a bit of lag. Or was it a sideways moment for Demon R there? So Demon R with a 36.7, which would suggest that SGP's probably done a mid 36, and Steve F1, I would guess a low at 36. So Art Pal did a 36.6. He's picked his pace up. His tyres are looking in great condition. They really are looking in great condition. You know, it must be he must be driving in a very, very smooth manner. It's the best way to be quick and kind on your tyres, not attacking curbs. Apart from that one, let's see, Demon Odds. He attacks the first Degner massively. So yeah, very different driving styles there, and will come with different rates of wear. Okay, Steve F1. So in the last lap was a 36.6, SGP's was a 36.444. So the front four all in the 36s, which means that Steve F1 hasn't really gained over Art Pal on the previous lap. Now there is the possibility that as Steve F1 is trying to sort of keep a faster lap time, the tyres may just struggle a little bit. I think we just saw Steve F1's rear end get a little bit loose there. Demon R is a lot closer to SGP. Now, if he was to go and try side by side, he'd have more grip, but doesn't do it. And there you see just how much room is lost. Whoa! I think that, yeah, that was evasive. Because I think if that was an attempted overtake, it'd have kept going. But yeah, it was definitely looked an evasive. And is he going to try and make the move now? No, he's not. Okay, it's he's bump drafted him, which obviously you wouldn't normally see in Formula 1 cars. And for anyone wondering why the bloody hell would he do that, as Twilight's closed the gap down quite a bit. Well, quite simply, in a situation like that, SGP has obviously lost time through the final chicane. So it would be a little bit unfair, I reckon, for Demon R to have made that move down into turn one, because the only reason SGP was that slow down that straight was because of Demon R taking evasive and slowing SGP down. So yeah, you'll see that from drivers sometimes, not taking any advantage from a situation that they caused. Now, I didn't look at Art Pal's lap time last time around. Steve F1 very close in laps. Yes, the SGP's lap time was a 37.5. So was Demon R's, and that was all down to Demon R. But once they'd got through turn 1 and 2, it would be game on. Demon R having a little bit of a look. And it might not actually be a bad idea for Demon R here to position his car out of the dirty air of SGP to try and get some grip, maybe through Spoon, as Twilight flying. Obviously, with boost, he's done a 30.9. And yeah, it's really has he closed? No, okay, no. You know what? I think he was. I think Twilight has pitted again. So he was closing in with a boost, but he's done another pit stop. Okay, Art Pal, 37.3. Did a 36.6 and a 37.3, as it looks like we're actually going on board with Art Pal. I'm guessing then the gap between second, third and fourth has sort of grown a little bit. Looks like we've got Twilight on the pack cam and nearly did turn the wheel. Now, interestingly, look at Art Pal's steering inputs here. It's nice and smooth and not too aggressive with the throttle. The steering's not twitching all over the place. Whereas if we sort of look at Demon R's steering, a little bit more twitchy. Art Pal again avoiding the first Degner curb. But this is where he's getting his pace from. He's being smooth and calming, keeping the temperature of the tyres in a nice range. And that's what's allowed him to do fairly consistent-ish lap times, but at a quick pace. As on the pack cam, we can see Demon R all over the back of SGP once again. Let's see how Art Pal's going to get on through Spoon, shall we? And let's get a nice turn in. Interesting. Runs a little bit wider there. Now, if he'd have straightened up his wheel a bit in between the two Spoon curves, he would have been able to get a better turn in for the second part. Let's see how he gets on through the R130. Okay, turns in a little bit late. Perhaps a bit more steering angle there than he really needed, but he got away with it. He's all right, but now runs a little bit deep. He did dip a wheel on the grass on the left on the way into the corner. Yep, cautious on the throttle through the final corner and then floor it down to turn 1, and it's a 37.9. So Art Pal's tyres may be giving up the ghost a little bit in terms of grip, or maybe maybe he's just pacing himself. Okay, Steve F1, last two laps, 37.2, 37.5, so still a little quicker than Art Pal, but not as much as he was gaining earlier on. SGP after that moment with Demon R did a 36 and then a 37. Demon R did a 37, then a 36. So these guys' pace is so closely matched, and this is where, for example, if we for this race had taken the tyre wear off, had Demonar not have had his spin into the pits, then we probably would have been in that oh, and he's all over the place here. We would have been in a situation of Steve F1 leading, SGP up his chuff, Art Pal in third place, and Demonar in fourth place, with a very close battle going on there, because Art Pal's not made a mistake during this race. Demonar, having made his spin, would have gone through the pits, and yeah, okay, he would have caught back up, but he wouldn't have fresher tyres because there wouldn't be tyre wear on. So we would be in a situation now where it would be Steve F1, SGP, Art Pal, and then Demon R. So it may be something that the DGT League will have to consider, as Demon R runs a little bit wide once again. Yeah, we will have to consider, because I mean, boost affects all of the races that we do, but there's kind of a scope of acceptability that we're aware of, and like we will accept from the races. When there's a very low number of drivers, it skews it way too much. That's for certain. Demon R's really closed in on the back of SGP, and here comes Twilight. So Twilight, I mentioned earlier, was absolutely flying, and with 2 and this lap to go, Twilight's going to catch up. So again, I mean, if we didn't have if we didn't have pit stops needed, then Twilight would still be catching up, but he wouldn't have a massive tyre offset over the cars in front. So if he wanted to make moves, it would have to be simply down to his driving ability. And you know what? The gap between Art Pal and Steve F1 has come down quite a bit. And let's see, I mean, Demon R is still there behind SGP, but let's see how Twilight gets on now with the dirty air as well. And yeah, because obviously he's been able to close in, but once he gets within a second of SGP, as Demon R runs a little bit wide, Twilight might get a run here. Yeah, so Twilight will lose the boost soon, but he's got a great run, and he thought about going for it. Oh, yeah, keeps it quite nice through there, but again has to lift off and go down a gear, and that opens up the gap a little bit to Demon R. And Steve F1's just had a massive sideways moment I spotted on the pack cam through the final corner, which would suggest his tyres, his front right is hurting, and here's SGP not looking at trying to force the issue even. Nearly goes a bit wide. Demon R closes in. SGP sideways. SGP's in the barrier. Oh dear, Demon R as well almost just tagged the back of Steve F1. Oh dear, that got ever so close through sort of the exit of turn 1 there. I don't know if SGP maybe if he touched a curb or just got that revvy thing, as Ray likes to call it. But that now puts Demon R on the back of Steve F1, and Demon R with fresher tyres than Steve F1, as Twilight still closing that gap. And again, we see Art Pal there, and I don't think the gap has changed much from the previous lap to this one. I've not really been looking at the lap times the last couple of laps. Demon R in the mid 37s and closing in on Steve F1, so I'm guessing Steve F1 has sort of dipped to the high 37s and his front right tyre is hurting. But again, this is where the dirty air can help him, because unless Demon R gets alongside heading into the R130, he's not going to be able to make a move into the final chicane. Okay, did Twilight do anything here? I'm not sure. Now SGP has lost an absolute ton of ground after that spin, and okay, he's going to get a couple of laps of boost. However, he's not got the best condition of tyres at the moment. So Art Pal then crosses the line to start the final lap of the race. Steve F1 can see him. Steve F1 breaks the slipstream. Demon R just carries straight on. So Art Pal's last couple of laps have been in the 39s, but Steve F1's last lap was in the 39s, and Demon R's was in the 38s. So yeah, tyres going off, but also for Art Pal, I mean, if he's seen that gap has been sort of holding steady for a few laps, then yeah, he's probably making sure he doesn't make a mistake. because he's in a great position to be able to take a victory. Now, Demon R's in a great position to be able to steal second place off Steve F1. But again, I don't think it's like as easy as it may seem. I mean, we've seen Twilight catch up at a rapid rate of knots and then not been able to do anything. Art Powell's tyres are looking pretty good. Steve F1's front right is hurting. Demon R's are very good. Twilight's are phenomenal. Gary's are really good. And SGP's, well, they look good, but they were sideways. And Rich Blues in the pits still. So, yeah, issues there for Rich Blues. So, for Art Powell then, all he's got is 1, 2, 3, 4 more corners. And he'll take a victory. And some may wonder if there should be an asterisk next to it, but we'll get onto that at the end of the race. So through R130, he goes into the final chicane. Demon R through the R130. Twilight through the R130. Demon R is not close enough. Twilight's having a look, and Gary's there as well. But Art Powell's going to take the victory. Well done to him. Faultless drive. Steve F1 does close the gap, but holds on to second. Demon R third. Twilight fourth. Formula Gary spun it. Oh, dear, SGP's passed him. Oh, on the final corner, Gary just misses the pit wall. Oh, I'm wondering if he may have got a little bit too eager. Perhaps had an opportunity to try and make a move on Twilight, but ended up with a bit of a spin. Well, there we go. Art Powell, as I mentioned, faultless drive from, and his last lap was a 140, so he was definitely not taking any risks on the last couple of laps there, which is a sensible thing to do. I mean, you have to kind of be careful of doing a Senna at Monaco when he was asked to, like, yeah, take it easy. You don't need to go as fast as you're going. We don't want any mistakes, and then going slower, made a mistake. So there's a fine line between those two scenarios. Now, I mentioned there about whether there's an asterisk, and some may say yes, some may say no, some may say maybe. In this scenario, okay, I'm going to say no. Mainly, though, because I do think if Steve F1 and SGP had pitted a lap after Art Powell, I think they had the pace to at least put Art Powell under pressure and be there. Because there's a very different situation of being at the front with a bit of a gap, and you can just focus on what you're doing. If you're at the front and you've got a car a second or 2 seconds behind you, especially somewhere like Suzuka, that then it can slow you down, and that gap can come down dramatically. So if Steve F1 and SGP had pitted a lap after Art Powell, could have been different, but then some may say that they shouldn't have had to have pitted. Some might say, well, don't bother with boost. That's a fair comment. I think the best thing we can say, though, is drivers, you've got to let us know if you can't make the race. If you know the day before, let us know. Genuinely, we would rather you let us know and we postpone the race than if anyone was to think, well, I won't let them know, then the race will go ahead and they can get the race done. I don't want to be the cause of the postponement. No, we'd rather postpone it because it's a better race if we've got more cars on the grid. And yeah, I mean, for Jason, it was just massively unfortunate. For those guys that didn't let us know the day before or on the day, I mean, I am guessing there are circumstances for that. But again, yeah, let us know as soon as you can. The admins, we will discuss what to do with if a situation like this. I mean, we've been through this situation before, and that's how we brought in the strategy of what we do. So there is a set scenario like of what we do with low numbers, but I do think that we probably will have to look at doing something like, okay, in a championship like this, we could take the tyre wear off and then no one has to pit. So the boost isn't going to punish those up at the front, because that's kind of what happens and what happened here, that when you have got those lower numbers, well, when there's, let's say when there's 12 drivers on the grid, obviously the top 6 don't get boost. Now 6th can be in a little bit of a tricky situation because the cars behind them have got boost. However, if they can drive consistently enough and quick enough, they can hold that position and potentially catch the cars ahead if they are faster than them. But also, that front 6 have a good opportunity of being quick enough to break away, so that when they pit, the time loss or the time affectedness, it's a new word, is minimal. So they may actually come out ahead of the pack, whereas in a situation like this, the front 3 would never be able to really break away from the pack. Because, I mean, even when we had Demon R in 3rd place, Demon R, yes, can catch up to 2nd, difficult to overtake, but the pack will catch up to Demon R, so there'll never be any kind of gap form. So it does punish like those cars that don't get the boost much more than when there's a lot more cars on the grid. So by taking away the need to pit, takes away any benefit someone could really make by making a pit stop. I can confirm as well, Demon R's first pit stop was not intended. It was got massively out of shape and nearly crashed into the pit wall scenario. I mean, some people might think this is right or wrong. What Demon R has then done, because it was not an intentional pit stop, what Demon R did, I've been told, is he waited until SGP and Steve F1 made their pit, and then however many laps it was from his pit stop to their pit stop, he has driven on for that same number of laps. Reason being, for those number of laps, Steve F1 and SGP would get a benefit of boost, meaning Demon R's benefit would be negated pretty much. Unfortunately, Twilight had his mega spin at the final corner, and that meant that when SGP and Steve F1 came out of the pits, they were right behind Twilight. Without Twilight's spin, he'd have been 15 seconds up the road. They would have got a couple of laps of boost and then caught up to Twilight, so they wouldn't have lost out anywhere near as much, but also they would have been able to have closed the gap a lot more to ArtPal. So once all the pit stops had been done, Steve F1 and SGP potentially would have been 4 or 5 seconds behind ArtPal rather than sort of 9 or 10 seconds, but there you go. But as for ArtPal, as I mentioned, faultless drive. And if you're going to win a race, you have to have faultless drives. And to be fair, I mean, ArtPal didn't pit like mega early to get a mega undercut. He pitted pretty much bang on halfway. And made it work, made the tyres work, and has done really, really well. So for anyone that says there may be an asterisk next to that win, I'd say, nah, there isn't. He's deserved it. Now, has Steve F1 deserved the win? Yeah, very much so. But I think even Steve F1 could sit there and say, well, you know, ArtPal has driven a faultless race, and you can't really punish someone for that. We can try, considering that SGP did put a report in on ArtPal for starting out of his grid box. Such a daft report that the stewards didn't even bother looking at it, because nothing's going to happen from that. Okay, right, anyway, let's confirm this race result there. So ArtPal with the victory, 20 points. Steve F1 second place, 17 points. Demon R in third, 15 points. Twilight in fourth, 13 points. SGP in fifth on 12 points. Formula Gary in sixth on 11 points. And Ridge Blues in seventh, but it is a DNF. Now, unfortunately, because of the issues with Jason's lag in the practice and then unable to get back in the lobby, we did put a delay on getting going. Which unfortunately, obviously we started a little bit later, then meant that Rich had to go shopping with the wife, food shopping. So unfortunately for Rich, he's had to park it in the pits and leave it there. Now, fair play to him, he did the right thing. Whether it's a rage quit or like whatever the situation may be, if you need to stop, we do say to drivers, please park it in the pits rather than leave the lobby, because it affects the boost. However, on this occasion, if he'd have actually left the lobby, Steve F1 would have got loads of boost in third place and maybe able to have won the race. So, Rich Blues, you're a bugger. But no, fair play. Oh yeah, unfortunately, wasn't able to complete the race. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we've offered a seat to a new driver, and yeah, he wasn't able to make this race. We'll see if what his availability is going forward, and we are looking for new drivers. SGP has said he's going to be trying to have a lobby open as many times as he can over the coming days, over a lot of the coming days actually, as many as he can do to try and get new drivers in, because one of the best ways we can minimize the boost effect, so to speak, is to fill the grid. Okay, right, that's the race results. So let's take a look then at the championship standings after 5 races. Demon Art still leads the way on 89 points, now only 9 points ahead of Steve F1, who's on 80 points. Art Pals holding on to third place on 69 points, with SGP now up to fourth place on 60 points. Unfortunate for SGP dropping those positions late on, but yeah, 60 points for him. SRI drops to 5th with him being ill and unable to race. 58 points for him. Unfortunate for Jason with him connectivity issues, but to be fair, he did send us a picture of the little bit of snow that they'd had. It was about 3 foot deep, so that may have affected his connection. Yeah, so Jason not scoring on 46 points. Nelly 7th, 44 points. Twilight with the points he scores today closes that gap down to 1 point, and then Formula Gary with the points that he scored also closes that gap. So we've got Jason to Gary covered by 5 points. Jimmy, I've got these points done correctly now. Jimmy in 10th place on 21 points. Rich Blues in 11th place on 16 points. So Conrad in 12th on 7 points. As I sort of mentioned early on, unfortunately, Conrad in a situation where doesn't have the time to practice for races at the moment, and yeah, so deciding to stop racing for the time being. Obviously, we want him on the grid, and we've told him that, and we've also told him like the seat is always well, if there's a seat available, it's available for him anytime that he wants it. Although I am aware that he is selling his rig and his steering wheel, so if anybody is after a rig and a wheel, feel free to comment on the chat and I can give you the details. Now, it is also possible as well that Conrad and his wife are maybe trying to enlarge the family a little bit, and not just by consuming copious amounts of food. I think they're trying to do a bit of a ray and make a baby. So, yeah, probably needs room for a cot rather than a rig. But maybe he could find a way of attaching a wheel to a cot. I didn't say something else. Okay, yeah, so that's the championship standings as they are. And for anyone that is watching this that does want to get involved or is interested in getting involved in the Dynamic GT League, drop us a message on the YouTube channel, or the best thing to do is find us on Facebook, Dynamic GT League on Facebook. Drop us a message. We'll get you into the practice sessions on a Thursday. They're the sessions we really need you to come and take part in, so that you can get to know us, we can get to know you. You don't have to be the fastest of drivers. We just ask that you're clean, you're up for a good laugh, you don't take things too seriously, you're aware of, like, we use booster things. We have a rule book that it's a video book called a rule book that we'll provide you, so you can check through, so that you know how we expect drivers to go about racing on and off the track. So yeah, drop us a message on Facebook, we'll get you involved. And if you happen to join any of the other lobbies that SGP is doing over the coming days, and you are interested in getting involved, send SGP a friend request. If he doesn't accept it, you know he's not keen on on your driving. With us, either that or he's not had his PlayStation on. Anyway, right, that's quite a bit of a waffle there. So let's mention then about the next track. Now, very difficult race day really for the admins here, obviously with the low grid and the frustrations that that can bring. And obviously we try and make things as enjoyable for everybody, which means that the next track may not help the scenario, because the next track is Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I know I said that a little bit wrong. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada. And I fully expect quite a few of the drivers in our league have not driven this track. Two things to know. We're about to do a flyover around the track, giving some key points. Demonar has done a lap guide video. I think it's about 7 to 10 minutes long, but it shows how long it takes for the tyres to warm up, the difference of grip from cold tyres to warm tyres, braking points, key part, braking points. Because if you get the braking points right, the cornering is easy. If you get your braking points wrong, the cornering is hard. So please check out Demonar's lap guide video for Canada. It'll be on the DGT League YouTube channel. It might be private, unlisted, but it will be shared in the DGT Facebook chat. Okay, check those out, get the braking points right, because if you enter the corners too fast around this track, you will hate this circuit. If you have too much steering on or too much throttle on the exits of some of the corners, you will hate this circuit. And hating the circuit is obviously one thing that will make some people think, oh yeah, I'm not gonna bother racing this one. I don't like the track. There's only one way you're gonna learn it, and that's to be on it. Two ways you can learn it: watch the lap guide, and then be on the track. Because if you're not on the track this time, the next time we use it, you won't have the experience of this time. And the only way you get experience is by doing it. Just ask Raymond. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of a flyover then of the Montreal circuit. So let's get that drone ready. In 3, 2, 1, let's fly. So here we go then, looking at the screen and the circuit and the lake. And there is the rowing channel to the left. Can't quite see it over the building though. Okay, so start finish, bit of a kink to it. Braking point. Oh, there's the rowing bit. Look, there's the rowing bit for the Olympics from donkeys years ago. Okay, braking point. That patch of tarmac, the start of that tarmac is your braking point. You want to get 2 wheels on the apex curb here. You may want first gear into this corner, second gear on the way out. Get off the steering if you're going to go on the throttle. Don't brake late here. It's about 75 to 80 meters. Second gear corner, and again, you want 2 wheels over this curb. Don't be greedy. You can short shift to third. Get off the steering. This corner will be flat out once the tyres are warm, but if you get the wrong line on the way in, you get close to that wall on the right. 100 meter braking point seems too early, but it's not, because you want to get 2 wheels on that apex curb. Avoid the apex curb on the right. Get off the steering and... oh, hello, JCB. Yeah, get off the steering before you really get the power down. Avoid the curb on the right. It will spin you. Now, one of the most difficult corners coming up on this circuit. And a very... I mean, in modern F1 cars, you can brake sort of at the bridge or under the bridge, and we can't go over the bridge, but it is a very wide road. But braking point is way before the bridge. And to be honest, I thought we were going to stop and have a look at it, but we didn't. Braking point is about 120 meters. So check out Demonar's lap guide for it. He does point it out very much so on there. Braking point for the hairpin is the change of tarmac. Do not try braking later. You will end up going straight on. Don't get too greedy on throttle on the exit. It can be done in first or second on the way out. First could give you quite a bit of wheel spin. But again, get off the steering when you want to get on the power. Oh, that looked a waterway down there. Okay, so as we head down the back straight then, Breaking point, I think 150 meters, if I remember rightly. Don't know what that building is over there. So we go just past the bridge, and then up on the left on the fence is the 150 meter marker board. That is the latest point you can break, and even earlier. If you've got traffic, stay off the curbs, otherwise you end up over there like the Leighton House. Well, I say stay off the curbs, stay off the orange sausage curbs. You want right hand wheels touching the red and white curbs on the right, left hand wheels touching red and white curbs on the left. Around there very quickly. It's a very simple circuit, is Montreal, but as I mentioned, it is made very, very difficult if you don't get your braking points correct. So just to reiterate, turn one at the start of the change of tarmac, that's if there's no cars in front of you. If you've got cars in front of you, you're going to have to brake a bit earlier. And if you've got a few cars in front of you, you've got to be prepared for them braking earlier. So be very careful of that. 75 to 80 meters for the second chicane. Brake way before the bridge for the third chicane. We're looking at about 120 meters, I believe it is. And don't get too greedy on the throttle on exit. Second gear on the way in, third gear on the way out, get off the steering. Excuse me, change of tarmac for the braking point for the hairpin. But again, if you've got cars in front of you, you're going to have to brake earlier. And if that brake earlier is still on a bit of a curve, be very, very careful. Final chicane, yeah, 150 meters. If you brake at that point, you can make that final chicane comfortably every single time. If you brake after that, you are probably not going to make the corner at all. And again, if you've got cars in front of you, you have got to brake earlier. So be very much prepared for that. Right, that's just about it. There we go, done, dusted. Canada's coming next, and it could be chaos. But again, this is where if you can get on to do 10 minutes of practice, I would highly recommend you do so. And if you need one of the admins to be online when you do it, just give us a shout. Yeah, we'll get on. I mean, Art Pal, he's been doing quite a bit of practice lately. Although he is not available for this race in Montreal. So we did jokingly say, well, we'll postpone the race and then he'll still have to do it the week after. But yeah, he's off on a little holiday. So taking the win this week, but he's not going to be taking the win next week. Unless it's a golfing holiday and he wins that. We'll have to wait and see. Right, that's it for today. You know what to do. Hit that like, or click like, smash that notifications bell, subscribe. You know what to do. Have a good one, everybody. And we'll see you all again soon.